Think you need a load of money sitting in your bank account to invest in property? You don't. Today I'm breaking down how you can get into your next deal with as little as £10,000 and still potentially walk away with a serious profit. I'll show you a real example where I bought a 135k property, where I had at least 50k worth of value, and how that could be financed for less than £10,000. Okay, so there's 6 main ways that you can finance a property. Now there are definitely others, more obscure ones, but these are the most common. Some are quick, some are risky, and some are perfect for first-time investors. Let's quickly go through them and show you what's most realistic, especially if you've got limited funds. Okay, so first up is cash. Now cash is the most simple, quick and easy way to purchase a property, but it's unrealistic for the average person. Basically, you have liquid funds available to be able to purchase a property outright, and the main advantage of cash is that it enables you to negotiate better deals, primarily because you move faster on that deal. And you move faster because there is no third-party lender involved. So there's no waiting for a bank to process your application. And you can also cut corners. Like on a recent property I just purchased in cash, I skipped the drainage searches, which are required from the council and can take a few weeks to process, and instead purchased some insurance to hedge against that drainage search coming back badly. So from the day of offer, it only took me 4 weeks to complete on that property. So that really shows you how powerful cash can be as a negotiation tactic. However, you are tying up all of that money into one single property. As a quick example, if you bought a property outright in cash for £100,000, you end up with one property you own outright. Whereas you could have potentially bought 4 £100,000 buy-to-let properties, each with a £25,000 deposit, enabling you to leverage yourself further and have 4 times the property for the same amount of money. And that brings me on to the second most common way of financing a property, a good old mortgage. Mortgage is the most common route to purchasing a property, so the majority of properties that you'll see will be purchased with a mortgage. Now, a mortgage is basically an asset-backed loan. Asset-backed meaning that the house is actually the security of the loan in case you default. So if you fail to pay, the bank will take the house for themselves, which means that interest rates are much lower because the debt is secured by that property. So that allows you to leverage yourself where you only have to pay a deposit. And that deposit can be as little as 5% if it's a residential mortgage. But I'll dive further into mortgages shortly. Let's talk about the next options. And this next one is the one I see all the time. Bridging loans. Straight off the bat, I want to stress bridging loans are high risk. The intention is to borrow a large sum of money for a short amount of time. And so straight away, you're putting yourself at risk because if your renovation takes longer than you thought, the interest rate is just going to compound, and you're going to end up owing a lot more money and potentially even put yourself at risk of defaulting. But on the plus side, bridging loans are fast to arrange and they're great for quick flips or auctions. Ultimately, what a bridging loan is another asset-backed loan, but you're using other properties or other assets to secure that loan. So if you're further along in your property investment journey and you have a few properties, you can use a bridging loan to secure your next one quickly. Swiftly moving on, our fourth option are refurb and development loans. Now what sets this apart is that it's a loan for the property and the refurbishment of that property, which sounds great, right? It's basically covering all of your costs. However, you've got to have good experience and a good reputation of doing this in the past. A lender will not give you that money unless they are sure that it's worth their risk. And if you have no history of doing it successfully, they won't lend out to you. So overall, it's great that you get to borrow for the entire cost of that property and renovation. However, you have to have experience and reputation before you can do something like this. All right, so fifth, and something that I've seen grow in popularity lately, are joint ventures. The way I like to phrase joint ventures is it's your time and their money. You've partnered with someone to purchase a property and do the work to renovate it, where they, the partner that you're joint venturing with, pay for that, and you are doing that work to secure the profit. So the risk is shared between you, which is nice. However, you will need legal arrangements between yourself and your joint partner. Your profits are split, and again, you need experience and a reputation. It's very hard to go into a joint venture if you haven't done this before. And on a final note, and very similar to joint ventures, are angel investors. And what sets angel investors apart from the joint venture is that angel investors are primarily investing in you as a person, not into the specific property that you're renovating. So in the situation where you have an angel investor, their private cash is likely going to pay for everything. However, you're going to have to give away a high return or equity in your business for them to enable you to have that cash to succeed. And again, like these previous two, that requires trust and experience. So to summarize these 6 options, across the bottom here are definitely for later on in your property journey, where you have trust, you have experience, and you have a reputation. And they can be fantastic options for when you're at that point. But if you're a beginner or just starting out, look at these top 3 options. primarily cash or mortgage, if this is your first or second property. Once you have 3 properties or more, you can look at bridging loans, but I must emphasize again, you've got to be sure of the timeline of that renovation. Any unforeseen circumstances can really cost you money. Ask me how I know. Okay, so let's zoom in on mortgages. And this is the part especially for beginners, but more experienced investors might learn something too. So within mortgages, you have 2 main options for a mortgage. You have a residential mortgage where you live in the property, and you have a buy-to-let mortgage where you let that property out to someone else. Now, a residential mortgage lets you buy that property for a very low deposit, even as low as 5% for some banks. You get lower rates and you get stamp duty relief, especially if this is the first property you're buying. So for any beginners out there that haven't yet bought a property, you can get one with 5% deposit, probably no stamp duty cost, and you can live in it whilst you renovate it. So you only have one set of bills to pay. And in a real world example, I've just bought a property in Newark for £135,000, and I'm expecting to sell it again for at least £185,000, which is £50,000 worth of value add as a conservative estimate. And if this was the first property I was buying, I could have bought it with a 5% deposit, which if my maths is right, that's £6,750. Absolutely no stamp duty because it's under the threshold, and adding on solicitors' fees, you're looking about £9,000. So you can get into a similar property where you can potentially make £30,000 plus of profit for less than £10,000 of your own money. And at the same time, you're learning invaluable experience to potentially use some of these more advanced products later. Well, okay, what if you're planning to buy another property and rent it out to tenants? Well, in that case, you need a buy-to-let mortgage. And buy-to-let mortgages typically have a minimum deposit requirement of 25% and have higher interest rates too, but not by that much. However, the key thing to note is that unlike a residential mortgage, where they assess your own personal income, a buy-to-let mortgage assesses the income from the tenants who are paying the rent. Now this becomes a little bit tricky because yes, that sounds great, but the banks who are lending to you for that mortgage will put it through something called a stress test. Now a stress test is a couple of factors where basically the banks are ensuring that depending on market fluctuations, like interest rates increasing or rent decreasing, you won't default on that mortgage. So they're making sure that the rent income is that much higher than the mortgage that you'll be paying versus the value of the property. And I built a spreadsheet that will tell you the results of that stress test. You can find that on my website link down below. Okay, so that wraps up the most common finance options you've got available for property investment. Quick word of warning though, absolutely do not let out a residential mortgage property without asking the banks for permission first, or using a buy-to-let mortgage. And bridging loans, they're great, but they are high risk. Okay, so whether you're flipping, renting, or just starting out, finance is about matching the right tool to the right job. Start simple, run your numbers, and if you're stuck, I can help. Leave a comment down below. And like and subscribe to be caught up on any more videos as I release them. And finally, if you're looking for a property to invest in, and you want to know how I do it, click this video up here, which will tell you how I find properties with potential.